Here's one that's going to genuinely annoy some people, because Disney is one of the most beloved entertainment companies on Earth, and what I'm about to tell you feels slightly wrong even after you've seen the numbers. Disney's movie studio, the thing most people picture when they think of Disney, the thing that made the company famous, the animated classics, the Marvel films, the Star Wars franchise, is not where the majority of Disney's profit actually comes from. In fact, some of Disney's most iconic, most culturally significant, most critically celebrated films have lost money, or made so little that the studio business, in isolation, would be a deeply troubled company. The real profit engine? It's the thing you physically walk into, stand in line for, pay $40 for a meal inside of, and leave absolutely exhausted, but somehow already planning to return. The theme park, every time, by an extraordinary margin. So today we're taking apart what Disney actually is underneath the animated characters and the franchise films. The park economics that generate margins most entertainment businesses would find impossible. The merchandise machine running quietly behind every movie release, and the reason Disney Plus losing money actually makes complete sense once you understand what it's really for. Same underlying trick as McDonald's, Starbucks, Costco, and Apple. But Disney might be running the longest, most patient version of this strategy of anyone we've ever covered. Let's get into it. Let's start with the actual film business, because the economics here are genuinely more brutal than most people realize. Making a major studio film costs an enormous amount of money, not just in production, but in marketing. A major franchise blockbuster can cost hundreds of millions of dollars to produce, and then an additional 100 million or more just to market globally. And here's the detail that surprises people who aren't in the industry. The box office revenue that a movie generates doesn't flow entirely back to the studio. Cinemas take a meaningful cut of ticket sales, sometimes 30 to 40% depending on the deal, the territory, and how long the film has been in release. So a film that grosses $1 billion at the box office isn't a billion-dollar film for Disney. It's a film where Disney receives maybe $600 million in theatrical revenue, against a combined production and marketing budget that might be $300 to $400 million, leaving a margin that sounds impressive until you factor in the hundreds of millions spent on the next 5 films simultaneously. The film business, even at Disney's scale, is genuinely hit-driven, genuinely risky, and genuinely uneven year to year. Some years you have Avengers Endgame. Other years you have expensive films that simply don't connect with audiences, and the losses are real. Now let's talk about what actually keeps Disney's financial performance so consistently strong, quarter after quarter, year after year. Disney's Parks, Experiences, and Products division. In many reported fiscal years, this division, theme parks, resort hotels, cruise lines, and associated merchandise, has generated a share of Disney's total operating income that dwarfs what the studio business produces. Sometimes the parks alone generate more operating profit than movies, television, and streaming combined. Here's why the park economics are so extraordinary. A film is a one-time transaction. You pay once, you watch once. A theme park visit is a captured spending environment lasting an entire day, sometimes multiple days. Park admission. Hotel rooms at on-property resorts at premium rates. Food and beverage at margins that would make any restaurateur jealous. Merchandise sold at extraordinary price points because of the emotional context of the purchase. Lightning lane passes and premium experiences layered on top of the base admission. Disney has systematically engineered every element of the park experience to maximize revenue per guest per day, in ways we covered in our theme park economics video. But what's unique to Disney specifically is the intellectual property layered on top of everything. You're not just visiting a theme park, you're walking inside Star Wars. You're physically present in the Wizarding World equivalent, but for properties Disney owns outright. That emotional premium, the willingness to pay significantly more because of what the experience represents, is something no generic theme park operator can manufacture. Here's a revenue stream that's genuinely massive and genuinely underestimated. Every Disney film is effectively a merchandise launch. The movie creates the emotional connection. The merchandise monetizes that connection across years, sometimes decades, after the film itself has left cinemas. The Lion King, Frozen, Toy Story. These aren't just films anymore. They're intellectual property platforms generating licensing revenue, merchandise sales, and theme park attractions long after any individual box office run has ended. Disney's consumer products licensing operation, the royalties collected when other companies manufacture Disney-branded products, is a genuinely significant business in its own right, generating revenue with almost no incremental cost once the intellectual property has been created. This is why Disney pays enormous amounts for intellectual property acquisitions. Pixar, Marvel, Star Wars, National Geographic. Each acquisition isn't just buying film content, it's buying a franchise, a merchandise platform, a theme park attraction, and a decades-long licensing revenue stream, all bundled into what looks from the outside like a movie studio deal. Okay, here's the part that confused a lot of financial analysts when it first became clear, and it's probably the most counterintuitive element of the entire Disney business model. Disney Plus has lost billions of dollars, genuinely enormous losses, building a subscriber base and investing in content at a scale that made Wall Street deeply uncomfortable for several years. Why would Disney intentionally build something that loses that much money? Here's the answer that makes everything click into place. Disney Plus isn't primarily a streaming business in the Netflix sense, a subscription service where the subscription itself is the product and the profit. Disney Plus is, at least in significant part, a marketing and franchise maintenance engine for Disney's actual profit centers. When a child grows up watching Disney Plus, they're not just a subscriber. They're a future theme park visitor, a future merchandise buyer, a future ticket purchaser for the next Marvel film. Disney Plus is creating and maintaining the emotional connection to Disney intellectual property that eventually monetizes across every other division. Losing money on streaming to build lifelong customers for parks, merchandise, and films is a completely rational strategy. Once you understand that the streaming subscription is the entry point, not the destination. Same underlying logic as Costco's hot dog. Lose money on the visible thing, on purpose, because it drives revenue in the place that actually matters. So let's bring this all together, because the competitive moat Disney has built is genuinely one of the most durable in any entertainment business that exists. Content creates the emotional connection. The emotional connection drives park visits, merchandise purchases, and streaming subscriptions. Park visits and merchandise generate the majority of operating profit. That profit funds more content creation, which creates more emotional connections. It's a self-reinforcing flywheel that's been running for decades. And the intellectual property at the center of it, the characters, the franchises, the worlds, become more valuable over time as more generations grow up emotionally attached to them, not less. Compare that to a traditional film studio, living and dying on the performance of individual releases, or a traditional theme park operator without owned intellectual property at the center of the experience. Neither can replicate what Disney has built, not because the individual pieces are impossible to copy, but because the integrated flywheel took decades and billions of dollars to construct. The movie business isn't Disney's profit engine. It's the top of the funnel feeding everything else. So the next time you watch a Disney film, or take a child to a Disney park, or buy a piece of merchandise at the airport because your kids spotted a character they recognized, understand what's actually happening. The movie created the connection. The park monetized the connection at extraordinary margin. The merchandise extended the connection across years, and the streaming service is maintaining the connection for the next generation of visitors, purchasers, and fans. Disney doesn't make money from movies. Movies are just how Disney makes customers. If this changed how you see that castle at the end of every film, hit subscribe. We break down the real economics hiding underneath the biggest brands every single week. What should we tear apart next? Drop it in the comments. See you in the next one.